Hi and welcome to Injury Preventive Leg Training. We will always do one exercise against leg injuries, and then I'm going to read from here something about the wet bulb temperature. Participating in the exercise is at our risk, and this is about a possible lethal biological process. So this includes the talking about a possible biological lethal process, and it's also mentioning of a grave disaster. So what we're going to start. First, a warm-up exercise. We are just breathing in and out. And again in and out. Again in, out. And the last time in, close the legs. And we have done the opening exercise, and all the other exercises, except the closing exercise, will be with standing on one leg. So let's start. First exercise, we're having the swinging leg in the air with a flexed foot and swinging it to the side. So to the side and the front. And the toes of the leg, which is swinging, are pointing more or less the whole time in front. A few times more. And now we're switching to the other leg. Again, a good standing leg. The other leg in the air with a flexed foot. And we're swinging to the side and the front, side and the front. And the toes of the leg, which is swinging, are pointing more or less in front the whole time. And now to the wet bulb temperature. The wet bulb temperature is a temperature that is included in the name, the wet bulb temperature, but it's good to have it so you can actually maybe conceptualize it. The wet bulb temperature is a temperature. The wet bulb temperature has something to do with the water in the air. So there is air, and inside of air is water. And the wet bulb temperature has something to do with the water inside of the air. Now we're having again one leg in the air, and we're swinging it in front, and back, so we're bringing it in front. And back, the foot is flexed of the leg, which is in the air. And we're doing that quite fast. And a few times more. And now we're changing. Again, a good standing leg. The other leg is in the air with a flexed foot, and we're bringing the leg which is swinging in front. Back, we're doing it quite fast. So the wet bulb temperature is a temperature, and it has something to do with the water inside of the air. The wet bulb temperature is reached when certain specific conditions are given. So it's a temperature which can be reached, so it can be the temperature. And that is when certain conditions are given. Okay. Water can only evaporate if the air around it can absorb it. If water is standing there, it gets less. So if water is something, it gets less. If there's laundry, the water gets out of it. But it happens only if the air around it can absorb water. Humidity is how much water is in the air. So humidity, the word says how much water is in the air. There can be a humidity of 20%, then in the air are 20% water. Or humidity of 50%, when there are 50% water in the air. Humidity means just that. And last thing we hold on, relative humidity is the maximal amount of water which could be in the air. So relative humidity is how much could be maximal water in the air. That can be at 50%, at 60%, at 70% or 80%. So if it can be that air can be at 70% water in the air, it can't get any more water in it. So air cannot always reach 100% or 80 or 70 or 60. It can be that if there are 50% of water in the air, there can't come any more water inside of the air. Next exercise, we are bringing one leg up into a right angle with a flexed foot. We are torn up and we're having even aligned hips, so don't be too high with the leg on one side. And now we're bringing the leg to the outside. We're breathing in to measure the time. And out we bring the leg back and control down. And again, the leg up to the side. We're breathing in. And out back into the middle and control down. Now with the other foot. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even aligned hips, tall with the back. Straight in the neutral position of the spine, And the leg to the outside, we're breathing in. And out of the coming control back and bring the leg down. And another time. The leg up, right angle, flexed foot. Even aligned hips, straight up with the back. Bring the leg to the outside, breathing in. And out back into the middle and down. Humidity is the amount of water in the air, and relative humidity is how much water could be there possibly. An example, the air can have 30% humidity, and let's say the air can technically hold up to 60% humidity, then the already present 30% humidity are 50% of the relative humidity. So let's say there are 30% water in the air, 30% humidity, and the air can take 60% of water in it. After that, it cannot take any more water in it. By 60% relative humidity. By 60% is the humidity reached, which could be reached. So that means 60% of humidity would be 100% of relative humidity. Maybe later again. The drier the air is, the more water can it absorb. And the drier air is, the easier water evaporates. Sweat evaporates faster in drier air. So if the air is very dry, at a very dry place, when the sun is shining very strong and there is no water anywhere near and the air is just very dry. But it has different reasons why the air is dry. But let's say it is very dry, then the water evaporates faster. If the air is dry, water evaporates faster. And sweat also evaporates faster if the air is dry. Next exercise. The leg up, same setup, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, now we're pressing with the hand against the inside of the knee, and we're having a little bend in the elbow. Tall up with the back, even lined hips. And we are changing the other leg up, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, and we're pressing against the knee, and we're having a little bend in the elbow. And let's go directly on with the next very similar exercise. Again, the leg up, right angle, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up the back. And now the leg presses up into the hand, into the side, up, into the side, to the side. And we're having even lined hips and a straight and tall back. A few more times. Now we're changing to the other side. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up the back. And the knee presses up to the side, up to the side. Up with the back, even the light hips, up to the side. If a relative humidity is reached, that means the air has reached 100% water concentration of what it can hold. Sweat does not evaporate. That means at 100% relative humidity, sweating does not cool anymore. So if the air has all water in it, which it could take, relative humidity is reached, it can be at a humidity of 60%, but relative humidity is already reached by 60% of humidity. It can't take any more water. Sweat does not evaporate anymore, and sweating does not cool anymore. The wet bulb temperature is the lowest temperature which can be reached by cooling through evaporating of water. So that is the lowest temperature which could be in a room at which water does not evaporate anymore. It's the lowest temperature which could be reached by evaporating of water. There's no heat exchange happening anymore or something like that. If the air has for a few hours, so let's do it in a moment. First, the next exercise. We're placing one hand on the tummy and one on the lower back. Now we're lifting one leg straight up with the flexed foot. If the quad cramps, bring it up and flex the foot. Stretch it up and flex the foot. So we're bringing the leg up, straight leg, flexed foot, as high as we can, putting a bit of effort into it, not too much, but a bit of effort. And we're trying to go up higher. Control with the hands, that you have a neutral position of the spine, that you don't go back or something. Bring the leg higher, and we're bringing it up and pointing the foot. And on the other side, straight leg up, the leg has a flexed foot. We're controlling with the hands, that we're having a neutral position of the spine. We're putting a bit of effort into bringing the leg higher. And now we're bringing it up and pointing the foot. If the air has for a few hours more than 35 degrees Celsius and in the air has already so much water as the air can absorb, humans can no longer cool through sweating. They will no longer give away warmth to the air, but they will receive warmth from the air, and they will die. No matter the ventilation, no matter if in the sun or in the shadow, no matter how young, fit and healthy the person. If people are not young, fit and perfectly healthy, death will occur already by way lower temperatures by which the air cannot absorb further water. So the human body temperature should be at 30-70 degrees, and through thermal regulation, the human body keeps it at 37 degrees. For example, if the body gets too hot, starting with next exercise, we're having a standing leg and the toes are pointing to the outside, the other legs with the heel on the ground, and we're lifting with heel off the ground and again on the ground. So the human body always tries through thermal regulation, for example, by sweating, to keep the body temperature at 37 degrees. If it's now warmer, for example 40 degrees, then the body would overheat, and if the body would overheat, the human dies. So humans regulate down to 30-70 degrees through sweating, for example. Now if it are 35 degrees on the outside, which is basically what it is, what humans have on the inside, now we're switching the leg, and if the air can't take any more water anymore, then sweating does not work to cool the body. And the air has from 35 degrees or 36, 37, 48, and the body heats up more than 37 degrees, and the human person will die. So if the air has 35 degrees and the air can't take any water anymore, the humidity has reached relative humidity, sweating does not work to cool that person, and the person cannot cool anymore, the person overheats and dies. And one exercise left. If people are not young, fit and perfectly, so the person dies, whether they are fit or not, the sweat doesn't cool, it's physics, they die. And if a person is not young, perfectly fit, not young and in perfect health, the temperature is not 35 degrees, but way lower. They can already die by 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29, or here in this example, the wet bulb temperature, so the lowest temperature which the air can reach for cooling the water, the temperature by which water and sweat no longer evaporate, was during the European 2003 heat wave by only 28 degrees. So 2003 there was a big heat wave in Europe, and there the wet bulb temperature, so the temperature by which the water cannot take any more water and sweat doesn't evaporate anymore, was by only 28 degrees. That was in 2003, and there 70,000 people had died. 20,000 in France, 20,000 in Italy, 2,000 in the UK, 10,000 in Germany, and so on. So there 70,000 people died in 2003 because the air had 28 degrees and it could not take any water anymore. That was the main reason. The next exercise. We're having a standing leg, the other leg is in the air, and we're swinging it back, and we're going with the upper part of the body down. And we're trying to be tall with a standing leg. And we're switching over the other leg. Be tall with standing leg and get on in a straight line. And one last time. And now two closing exercises, which we had done as the opening exercise. We're breathing in and out. And again in and out. And we're breathing in and closing the legs. And we're done with a preventive leg injury training. So it was in 2003, highest temperature was 47 degrees in Portugal. But in other areas of Europe and France it was at 40 degrees. But at 28 degrees, the air could already not take water anymore. So the wet bulb temperature was reached at 28 degrees. And for perfectly healthy young people, fit people, it are 35 degrees where they die. If a person is not 20 years old, not perfectly, absolutely healthy, as however it would be given, they will die already at 33, 32, 31, or in this case in 2003, and you by 28 degrees, 70,000 people had died. So the wet bulb temperature is the temperature by which the air in the room cannot take any water anymore. It's the lowest temperature which can be there by which water still evaporates. At that point water doesn't evaporate anymore, sweat doesn't evaporate anymore, and the human body does not cool anymore. And that can be this will be a problem. I thank you very much, and until the next time.